Não crie conflitos em si mesmo. Isso aqui é apenas uma passagem.
Tudo sobre o milagre do deputado.
Mas o tumor não está mais aí. E esse povo todo aí fora? Quero que você mande eles embora.
Eu sei que tem muita gente aqui precisando de ajuda.
Todo mundo falando disso, a cidade não fala de outra coisa.
Por que o senhor curou meu irmão e não me cura?
Não sou eu que curo, filho. É o careca.
Pede pra ele me curar, pai.
O senhor já sente a presença do Dr. Fritz?
Às vezes você não pode dar ouvido a essas vozes, só vai piorar.
Não quero deixar a Lete e os meninos.
Por que a gente não pode ter uma vida normal? Zezé é um homem bom. O coração dele é bom.
Eu já disse, eu não sou médico, não. O médico é o Dr. Fritz. Longe de mim querer ganhar dinheiro em cima de quem tá doente.
Nem lembro a última vez que eu vi televisão assim com o senhor.
Não vi meus filhos crescerem porque eu tava trabalhando pra você.
Aceita. Essa é sua missão.
Foi você. Mas não parecia você, entende?
Eu não aceitei missão nenhuma!
Você tem que confiar em Deus.
Você casou com um homem e acabou com o outro. Mais da metade do tempo não sou eu que tô aqui, é o careca.
Tá cheio hoje, viu?
Vamos começar o nosso trabalho.
Hello, good morning, everyone. We are very happy to be here once again on our Saturdays with the special talk that today will be presented to us by Roberto Watanabe. As always, before we start our presentation, we like to start with a prayer. Then we will be introducing our guest speaker, and then we will have the opportunity to hear a bit more about the topic he brought to us. So we invite everyone to raise their thoughts, unite their hearts, asking for the blessings of the Spirit benefactors, all those that are responsible for this work, that help us in our process of enlightenment. Thanking our brother Jesus and our Heavenly Creator for all the blessings we have been receiving in our day-to-day lives. Okay, so today we have a very special guest with us. We have Roberto Watanabe that is going to be talking to us directly from Brazil, the state of São Paulo, and he is currently the president of the Spiritist Federation of São Paulo. He directs courses on continuing Spiritism education, and also on courses of the Spiritist philosophy. And he has a bachelor's degree in philosophy and business and MBA from University PUC of São Paulo, Brazil. Hello, Roberto. Welcome, and thank you so much for having accepted our invitation to talk to us today.
Hello, Gisada. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here with you and to talk about Spiritism.
So now it's with you. Thank you, everyone that has joined us today, and also for everyone that is accompanying through our social media, Facebook, YouTube channel, and also for TVC that is airing this presentation as well. It's Roberto.
Okay, I'm going to share the presentation. Well, is it there?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about a book from Denis. Denis, this great spiritist. This year we are commemorating the 175 years of his birth in 1846. And then we are going to talk today about this book, After Death, where Denis meditates, made some deep reflections about life and death, and what happens after we die. So this is he started by thinking about this. So that's what we are going to see today. So in the beginning of the book, Denis, he says, I had seen health buried in their winding sheets of sand and stone, the famous city of a bygone day. The centuries have witnessed the passing of nations and of kingdoms, and nothing has remained. So he here is in a mood of nostalgia, of sadness. We can think, for example, about the Roman Forum in Rome. And today we have there only ruins of once the famous city of Rome, the center of the civilized world. And now we have only that stone, sandy stone, as Denis says. And then he asks, can it be that a man in his works are alone destined to nothingness and oblivion? So this is the mood where he started this book, this reflection. And then he goes on. He says that he experimented the same impression in the face of a loved one departure. So then we get to the theme of death. Death is the question mark, he says, that unceasingly confront us, to whose solution so many philosophies have been dedicated. So this is a question which has been tormented the man since the beginning of the times. And so that he says, tormented by the uncertainty of the hereafter, man raises his eyes heavenward in search of the truth. So what is the mood here of Denis' mood? Is that of mourning, melancholy, thinking about, well, then what happened about after death? He expressed here the man experiencing the conscience of his finitude, because we have a limit in our knowledge. We don't know everything. We can fail, we make mistakes, and we are under the constant threat of death. We can get hurt, we can get sick, we can die. And then what happens after we die? Nothingness, perhaps, after we die. Or do we still keep alive? So that is the question. Do the religion, the ancient religions, have the answer to such question, Denis thinks. And he says that at first sight, it seems that no, religion do not give us such answer, because they are mostly dominated by rituals for the public, for the people. But fortunately, that's not the case, he says. Because he says that a superficial glance over the beliefs and superstitions of the past conduces inevitably to skepticism, because only from the stereo manifestation, like the ritual that I mentioned, right? So doesn't say nothing about life after death or what happens after death. But then he said, but if one penetrates the inner sanctuaries of religious conception, then we find it in the presence of a momentous revelation, he says. Because behind such a veil, the ancient religions presented a graven and lofty character that was both scientific and philosophical. So ancient religions were not just rituals. There was something more, right? So he says, their teaching was dual, public and superficial on one side, the rituals, hidden and inner from the other side, the latter being solely revealed to the initiated. The hidden and inner part was the part that was looking constantly for the truth. That was what the ancient religion did. So he gives us some examples. Brahmanism of India, for example, Hermetism of Egypt, polytheism of Greece, and Christianity itself, at its origin, he says, presented this dual character. So then it seems that we have an answer for what happens after that. And then he says that the wise men of East and those of Greece, they did not scorn to study nature. They studied nature, but most of that, they studied the soul, because in the study of the soul, he says, they sought the everlasting principles. They strove to uplift themselves to the causeless cause, the first principle from where all being proceeds. Here we can remind the thinking of Saint Augustine, for example. Saint Augustine, instead of looking for God in nature, he looked inward. He turned to his inner side, to himself, and there he found the eternal laws, and these eternal laws leaded him to the origin of the laws, which is God. So God is the causeless cause, the first principle from where all being proceeds. So this is one way to reach God, right? So this is what Denis is saying here. And he says that these older religions, they picture the soul at the inner side of the religion, right? And they picture the soul as placed between the two worlds of the visible and occult, observing and studying them both. So here we are closer to our Spiritism concept, right? Then they said that the human spirit is immortal. So here we have the answer about what happened after death. It doesn't happen nothing, right? Because we are immortal. We keep alive on the other dimension, of course, but we will still be alive. And this immortal spirit, through many existences, alternating terrestrial and spiritual. Terrestrial and spiritual, we progress toward our Creator, to God. So then the conclusion is that life is not more than the evolution of the soul through time and space. Time and space is where we are, right? And of which matter, which means our body, is the inferior expression. So what is really essential in us is our soul, not our body, because our body is something that is temporary, right? So this is the older religion already knew that, right? Then he says that the teaching of the sanctuaries formed the man truly remarkable for the greatness of their achievements. And then he mentioned the men like Krishna from India, for example, Zoroaster from Persia, Hermes from Egypt, Moses and Jesus from Palestine, now Israel, and Pythagoras and Plato from Greece. So those men have great achievements. All that we have just seen now, about immortality, reincarnation. So those men already knew about that. But the disciple have not always been able, Denis said, to preserve their master heritage because they built dogmas, which turned those religions' creed stifled by the earthly ligaments. Where he's trying to say here that religion is something that talking about the transcendence, but then we forget about that, and we still we attach it to our earthly life. So then we create dogmas. So then Denis said there is a need of a new doctrine to arise. Such a doctrine should be idealistic in tendency, positive and experimental in method, and based on incontrovertible facts. So this is the scientific side, right? So he's talking here about the spiritism, of course, right? Which showed up in the middle of the 19th century. And Denis says that this new doctrine will be a resurrection of the same secret doctrine from the past, from India, from Egypt, right? From Persia, from Greece. But with this difference, at that time, this truth was revealed only to the initiated person. Now it will be within the reach of all. So that's the difference in Spiritism, right? It's open to everybody, not from some small circle of disciples. And then what we are going to see now, and Denis show us, is we will follow now the basic principles of Spiritism. So we will follow five basic principles, right? First, God. Second, the immortality of the soul. Third, the communication between the spiritual and, let's say, the physical, material world. Fourth, reincarnation. And five, evolution of or law of progress. So these five basic principles. We are not going to mention today a sixth principle, which is the plurality of inhabited worlds. That we are not going to talk here today, right? So beginning by the first principle, God. So what Denis said is that the existence of God cannot be demonstrated by direct and tangible proofs, because God is not material, right? We cannot see God. We cannot experiment God in a sensible way with our senses. But he says, but the soul of a man has experienced the necessity of looking beyond those perishable things, the material things, our material world, that make up the material life. So, the soul of a man looks to that which is alone, is permanent and immutable, perfect and absolute. Here we would like to remind of the Pascal, a French philosopher of the 17th century. Pascal says in one of his books that man is a thinking cane. Cane here, I mean that the plant, that is slender plant, which grows in water, very flexible. It moves from one side to the other according to the wind, right? So it's Pascal is saying here, that this cane is like our body. We are very fragile. We cannot even know whether we are going to be alive tomorrow, right? So our body is so fragile. Now with this pandemic, we don't know whether we will be alive or not in the next days, in the next month, or the next weeks. But then he said, but we are a thinking cane. We can think. And that's the great difference. Because by thinking, we can think about what is permanent and what Denis is saying here. We can think about what is permanent, immutable, perfect, absolute, has an infinite intelligence, right? So that is the difference. So that's why the soul of a man can look beyond the perishable things that Denis said, the material life, and look for what transcends us. So that is where we find the way up to God, right? And he says that the revelation of God is contained in 2 volumes, 2 books, let's say, which ever lie open before us. One we have already seen, right? Which is the book of conscience, like Augustine did, right? He turned to his conscience, and there he found the eternal laws, and then that led him to God. So the book of conscience is where the precepts of morality are engraved, the eternal laws of justice, of love, of truth, of beauty. So the other book where we can God is revealed is the book of nature, in which the divine works appear in majestic characters. It means that when we look at nature, we see everywhere we see the vestiges of a God, right? So there are 2 books when you can see. Outside, inside. Saint Augustine look inside. Thomas Aquinas, for example, another philosopher from the medieval times, he looked outside to nature, to cosmos, to the universe, and there he also found God, right? So God created the world, and the world, physical and moral, is ordained by laws set by God. That's what Denis says. So, and then one single substance or universal fluid constitutes in its infinite transformation the innumerable variety of forms. That we can see, right, on the chapter 6 of Genesis from Kardec. He says about this universal fluid and how the universe starts from that, right? And all these cosmic forces finally resolve themselves into motion. Everything is motion in the universe. And motions, Denis says, means life, and means being, means the spirit, means us, right? So that is the greatness of God. And the world, physical and moral. Physical because it's this physical world that we can see, the stars, the galaxies, our planet, the plants, the animals, we ourselves. But we have also the moral world, which is inside our conscience. So that is the 2 differences that we can see in the book, the Spiritist book, right? So then Denis used to have a poetical view of things. And then I extracted here a part that he is almost a prayer here. So when he said, God, soul of the world, universal center of light and love, in whom we live as the bird lives in the air, or the fish in the sea, through whom we are united to all that is, has been, and ever will be. So this is Denis almost crying to the greatness of God. So it showed to us here how faithful he was, right? Then now we are going to the second basic principle of the Spiritism, which is the immortality of the soul. So Denis said that the study of nature leads us to the study of the soul, because we have our body, but we have also our mind, right? Which is our soul. So the soul is the principle of life, cause of all sensations. We have our body, we have sensation, we see, we hear, we feel, we touch, right? Who is the cause of this sensation? The body? No. The soul is the cause, right? So in the soul is the principle of life. That's why when the body have no life anymore, the soul leave the body, right? Because the soul is the principle of life. And then we have the mind, right? The intellect, the reason, judgment are quite another thing from the flesh that clothes our muscles. So this is something that is well beyond our material body, right? And so it is with the conscience, weighing our actions and discriminating between right and wrong. So our moral sense, right? This is in our conscience. and also our will, our power, you know, our tendency to realize things, to accomplish things, to progress, right? And overcoming the conflict between passionate desires and the voice of a duty. And sometimes we would like to do something, but we know that that is not right, that's not correct. Our duty says that, right? And this is the conflict. Some follows their passionate desires, some follow the voice of the duty. So that is the difference, how their will are weak or strong, right? Depending on how there is they resolve this conflict. So this immortal spirit must be immortal, right? So that's why Denis said that immortality is the sole sanction of morality, and the only one that satisfies our notion of justice. Think about, for example, materialism that says that we have only one life, right? So if we have only one life, let's enjoy our life the most we can, no matter who we can hurt, we can overcome. Let's enjoy, because after that there is nothingness. So there is no morality there. It is not possible any morality or any justice there, right? With immortality, things change completely, right? Because then we have the law of cause and effect. Everything that we do now will have consequences, either in this life or in a future life. So then morality comes when we have this immortality of the soul. So, but this is not only something that is but just thinking in a logical way, because Denis said that the fact is also proved that the soul survives beyond the grave. So that's what Kardec did, and the other scientists from the 19th century, from the first half of the 20th century, they did a lot of scientific experiments to prove that the soul survived to death, right? So this is the second basic principle, the immortality of the soul. So let's go then to the third principle, which is the communication between we incarnated spirit with this discarnated spirit. But before that, we are going to talk about life in space. Well, we know, Denis, right? We were going to say about life of the space. So what happens after we die? You know? What is going to be our condition after this terrestrial life? So Denis said that the soul's conditions in that life, you know, after that, right, which lies beyond the grave, depend upon its faculty to feel and perceive. So what we are here on Earth, we will be the same there, right? So, and these faculty are proportional to the more or less advanced state of the spirit. So, what Denis is saying here is that, for example, the inferior spirits carry away with them their material habits, needs, and preoccupations. So, as I said, we are the same. What we are here, we are going to be there, right? The same. So, these inferior spirits, after death, they return to share in the life of a man and to take issues in their battles, labors, and pleasures. So, the inferior spirit is everywhere, right? It's on the streets and in our houses, our homes. If you don't take much care about that. And they are everywhere. They are participating in all the things that we do, right? Because their instincts and desires, quickened by continual contact with us, with man, beset them. We are very concerned about that, right? And the material impossibility of satisfying these instinct and design that they still have, although they do not have any body anymore, And these become a source of a torture to them, because they do not have a body to satisfy, right? So this is the inferior spirits. They stay with here actually on earth, right? But then we have the advanced spirit, right? And the light of the advanced spirit, as Denis says, is essentially active, and fated is unknown to it. So distance does not exist for the advanced spirit. They move with the rapidity of a thought. Now, they can even go, depending on the level of their advancement. He even may go to other planets, for example, right? Well, we can remember about Mozart, right? In the Kardec says that Mozart now, for example, he's in Jupiter, right? No, he's not more on Earth. So they can move everywhere. They can move through the radiant heavenly spaces, visiting the world and staying there at its will. They go and then they come back, and it sees, hears, feels, and perceives through every portion of its being. It means that the spirit, especially the advanced spirit, but also the inferior spirit in some way, they don't see with their eyes and they don't hear with their ears, right? But they see and they feel with all their body, the spiritual body, which we call in Spiritism perispirit, right? Which is the link between the soul and the body, the physical body. So that's the situation of the advanced spirit. And between the inferior and the advanced, there are many degrees. So that is what Denis explains next, right? He says that between the two extremes, there are many intermediate degrees in which similar spirits come together, forming veritable society. If you have an advanced spirit, they form society there. Inferior spirits stay here with us, right? And there is another level, intermediate level, and those who are similar, they form society in these different levels, right? That's what Denis is saying here. And when we are in the life of space, that means the life on the spiritual world, food and sleep are no longer necessary. We do not require speech in order to make themselves understood, because we communicate with the other spirit by thought, right? Not by saying. And they pass through the density bodies and kingdoms inaccessible to man, are as an open book to them. So it means that with this perispiritual or spiritual body, a wall, for example, is no barrier to the spirit, right? It goes through this wall. So, and there are worlds or dimensions that are open to them, which are not open to us. Here is a picture of our home, right? It is from a book of Andrea Luiz, which is in the spiritual dimension. Then let's go. Let's now explain the third basic principle, right? The communication between incarnate and discarnate. So we are going to do that through an example. Here we have a situation. This man here on the left is Andrea Luiz with the mustache and wearing a tie. He's the spirit Andrea Luiz, who is narrating this picture here in one of its books that he dictated to the medium Chico Xavier, as I suppose everybody knows, right? Who he was. And here we have this following situation. We have this woman here on the right, and blue blouse. She is a medium, right? And she is incorporating a spirit. And in this case, an inferior spirit. You say this man here in gray color, he's very angry, right? And the face of the medium express this anger that is inside this spirit, right? This inferior spirit. Then the man in glasses and on his side is the dialoguer who is trying to calm him down, right? Maybe taught him words of patience, of calm, of trying to calm him down. I don't remember another word now. So then this man, the dialoguer, who is incarnate, right? The medium, the woman medium, and the man who is dialoguing is incarnated. The spirit, the inferior spirit, gray color is spirit, is discarnated, right? But the dialoguer is being assisted by an advanced spirit, as you can see here. No? This man with the white hair and white beard. So this is an advanced spirit who is assisting him to calm down this angry spirit. And the other colleagues of the woman, they are all incarnate also, and they are giving support to her. Right? So this is what normally happens in a work that we do in a spiritist center, right? Which is to dialogue with this inferior spirit and try to lead them to the way of love, fraternity, and to help them in some way. So that is the third basic principle: communication between the spiritual and the material world. So let's go to the fourth, because we are there in the life of a space, right? The spiritual world. And then what happens next? We reincarnate, right? That is the fourth basic principle. So reincarnation means that all souls that have not emancipated from terrestrial influence must be born again into this world, this material world, to work out their improvement. We have our improvement there on the material and the spiritual world, right? But we have much more here in this material world. So that's why we need to reincarnate. And this is the case with the immense majority, Denis says, right? And the incarnation means the sacrifice of the free life, the transition from open space to dark confinement. What Denis means from here? What he wanted to show us here? It means that our life on the spiritual dimension we have much more freedom there, because we are not attached to a material body which can get sick, that can get hurt, that need food, that need air, that need lots of things, right? That are constrained in their senses. So reincarnation is much more a difficult thing than be incarnated here. Right? Live there is much better than here. That's why Emmanuel, right? I think everybody knows who is Emmanuel, as an advanced spirit. He said that our real life is there on the spiritual dimension, not here on the material world, right? So reincarnating, then he said, is an hour of anguish, more terrible than that of death. So it means that we, for example, that are here, we are almost every one of us are afraid of death, right? But from that point of view, reincarnate is much more terrible than to die, right? So that's what Denis is saying here. And from the beginning of the reincarnation process, the spirit is overcome by confusion, because we are there on the much more freedom than here, but then we must reincarnate. To reincarnate, we must prepare ourselves, right? That there is a long process that Andrea Luiz, that the spirit that I mentioned in one of these books, he showed to us how this process happens, right? So the faculties of the spirit, when he is going to reincarnate, are clouded. The memory fails, the consciousness slumbers, because we are going to attach it to the cell, that first cell, which we are going to develop into our body today. So once launched in its body, Denis says, the task of the soul will be to prepare this new organism to its necessary functions. In 9 months of pregnancy, the baby is developing this body, and then he's born, and then he has his infancy, childhood, and then he goes through all through his life and his development process, right? So this is the fourth basic principle of spirit, the reincarnation. And what will be the situation of us here after we reincarnate? Well, Denis said the resultant effect of its past determine the condition of the spiritual reincarnation. So the law of cause effect, right? So everything that we did in the past will reflect now in the present. So, and everything that we do now in the present, or think or say or do in our present, will have a reflection on our future. So that is why he said that everything must be accounted for, and everything likewise may be redeemed. The wrongs that we did in the past must be redeemed. And all our existence are linked together, right? So our present life is linked to our past life, also is linked to the moment that we were in this present life, in the past life, which is the life in the spiritual dimension, and so on from the past, right? So good and evil are reiterated through all time, he says, right? Because everything is linked. We bring from our past our tendencies, whether good or bad, right? And that is in some way influencing us today. And therefore, we must beware, he says, of those moments of the weaknesses that would betray us again into the servitude of matter, right? Because we bring our tendencies from the past. So we must be aware of that and to take care of that, and not going again into that servitude, as Denis said. Right? So that's the reincarnation. Then now we're going to the last basic principle that we're going to talk today, which is well, why we reincarnate, right? And what is the purpose of life? This is another basic question that man asked since the beginning of time, right? What is the meaning of life? What we are doing here after all, right? So, and then we have the law of progress, of evolution, right? We are here, not only here, but there on the spiritual dimension. We live, we were born by God to achieve perfection. Of course, relative perfection, because absolute perfection, only God, right? So the supreme aim, our supreme aim is perfection. And the road that leads to it, Denis said, is the road of self-improvement. So that's why we live today here, and we are going to live tomorrow in the spiritual world, and then in the future we come back again in here, and then we go in this movement, right? So our destinies are identical. There are no privileged or no cursed beings. So every one of us have the same destiny to reach perfection, the relative perfection, right? But what about that guy that do lots of evil? He also is going to achieve perfection. He just is on a certain degree that he still does not have the necessary understanding to perceive what is his supreme aim, as Denis says here, right? So we are free, but we are free to accelerate or to delay our progress. So we can say, well, I don't want to progress. I will stay. I will stop here, and it's fine to me, right? But what Denis said, and Kardec also said in the Spirit book, is that sooner or later we shall find ourselves obliged to take up our burdens and move on. So because that is the law of progress, which is the kindness of infinite mercy of God gave it to us, right? To progress and to perfection. And so between one soul and another, there is only a difference of a degree. So we are heterogeneous people, right? One understands more, other understand less, but it's just a difference of a degree, a difference that in the future we'll find opportunity to erase, because every one of us are in some degree, but we are those who are behind us will reach us in sometime in the future, and those who are beyond us, we will reach them also in the future. So as this difference, as Denis said, the future will find opportunity to raise. That's what he means for that, right? Because since all of us, he says, children of the same Father, God, must gather close to him, to God, in the succession of our life. So that is our main goal, right? To reach God, to get close to our Father, and finally resolve ourselves into one family, the great family of the Spiritists, with which the whole universe is peopled. So this one family, when we have this situation, just one family, the great family of the Spirit, there will be no war anymore. There will be no conflict. There will be no polarization like we have today, right? So this is where we are all going to, because this is the law of progress, right? Set by God. And the soul is not bound forever to this lowly planet. So probably most of us will still need to reincarnate many times still in this planet. But when we reach the most progress that we can reach here, then we can go to more advanced world, right? So that's what Denis is saying here. Like the case of Mozart that I mentioned, right? The Kardec says that he now is in Jupiter, not more on Earth. So when this soul has acquired the necessary qualities, the soul departs for more enlightened world. So that's what we just said. And still progress in this new environment, it will add to its store of moral wealth and knowledge. So we are always progressing, whether in this world and more advanced world and so on, to the infinite, right? Because our progress is infinite. And finally, delivered from reincarnation, it will enjoy the heavenly life, where it will share in the direction of beings and worlds. So being delivered from reincarnation is basically reaching the level of the pure spirit, right? Which we can see in the spirit book, right? The book of the spirits, where Jesus, for example, is an example of a pure spirit, and he's he's governed our world, for example, our planet. So this is what Denis said here, means here by share in the direction of beings and worlds. So our world is directed by Jesus in our case, right? So that is, then here we have the 5 basic principles of Spiritism, and we see that from that start of melancholy, sadness, nostalgia, mourning from Denis, now the picture is totally different, right? Now we have optimism, we have progress, we have beauty, we have justice, love, so truth. And then he concluded in a very different mood, right, from the beginning. Spiritism, he says, is at once an experimental, philosophical, and ethical science. It imparts to us a general conception of the world and of life, which is based upon reason and observation of effects and causes. He says, by initiating man, just a second, please. By initiating man into the mystery of the future life and of the unseen world, which is the spiritual world, it reveals to him his true position in the universe. So that's a different view of life, right? And he continues. Nothing dies. There is no death, right? Life simply alternates in forms. The grave, death, returns us to the cradle, birth, but both proclaim immortality, because from grave we are going to spiritual dimension. From birth we come from the spiritual dimension to the material dimension, but there is no death there, right? So just the body which disappears, but the soul is still alive in everybody, everywhere, and always, right? So he says, perpetuity of existence, eternal brotherhood of the generations, equality, universal progression, such as the tenets of the new faith from the Spiritism. And you see, all these is important to mention. Kardec said that all this is not the Spiritism who raised that, right? All these concepts were already there when we saw in the beginning, right? In the ancient religions, on the hidden inner side of those religions. So that's why Spiritism it actually don't bring any news, right? Everything that what he does and that we saw is to open this knowledge to everybody, right? So these tenets, that he said, are grounded upon the rock of experimental philosophy. Because what is experimental philosophy? Because Kardec did experience it, right? Where he realized the existence of the spirit, and from those experiments he derived a whole philosophy, right? And from that philosophy he deducted the moral consequences. So that's why Spiritism we say, or Emmanuel says, it is science, philosophy, and religion, right? From on the moral side. And then Denis says that life is fleeting, so we must endeavor to acquire what we came to seek in this world, which is true improvement. That must be our main goal, right? True improvement. So he says, strive against your base desire. Strive with the heart and will to correct your failings. Be meek and yet fortify your volition. It seems to be contradictory, but it's not, right? Then he ends, right? He concludes. Generations roll by, empires crumble, like we said in the beginning. Worlds and even perish. The earth one day will perish. Our sun one day, 5 billion years from now, but one day will perish. And suns are solved, he's saying here. But there are three things which come from God. And everything that comes from God are eternal, right? And that is wisdom, virtue, and love. So that is eternal. And that's what we must look for and reach for with our strength, right? So he says, conquer them by your effort in order to enter into possession of that which is eternal. Because when we reach this situation, we will be like Paul says in his letter from the Corinthians, right? We will see God face by face, right? And not through a mirror like we see today. And that is our main purpose. So with this, we end here our presentation, and I'm open here to any question our colleagues may have.
Oops, let me put this slide on. Oh, Roberto, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. I think in a way you managed to do almost impossible, which is to cover so much of this precious book that is After Death. Yeah. Leon Denis, I think this is a masterpiece from Leon Denis. I don't know if people in general are aware, but this book by Leon Denis is a result of a spiritualist congress that happened in 1889. And being in a spiritualist congress at that time, of course, the gatherings that they had was encompassing all other philosophies and religions. So there were many different currents of thought that participated on this Congress. And this one in particular generated a bit of a struggle because of the different takes on the ideas of God and the idea of spirit. And so Leon Denis left this Congress with the task of putting together a publication that could bring all the ideas that were discussed during this Congress. But of course, he would be presenting that from a spiritist perspective. And so he wrote After Death, and it was published in 1890. And it's interesting because he said that it should be a book of about 300 pages. We have to remember that at that time, to publish a book was very, very expensive. And the more pages it had, the more expensive it would be. And so, but when the book finally happened, it was 334 pages, but people comment that no one complained, and the way he described the book, that was the book was done in a spirit of eclecticism and conciliation from all schools that were present in the Congress, but keeping the teaching of the founder of Spiritism as its basis, with his principles so logical and so wise. There is one comment of this book that I like it very much, in particular, that was published in a publication at the time there. And this man, Alexander Hepp, he wrote the following: there is a man who wrote the most beautiful, the most noble, the most precious book I ever had read. And his name is Leon Denis, and his book After Death. So this is a fantastic book, and I think it's a beautiful way of us here and uniting, you representing the Spiritist Federation of São Paulo, and ourselves here representing the United States Spiritist Federation, to celebrate his life, his accomplishments among ourselves. So now let's go to the questions, unless you want to comment something before we go to the questions, Roberto.
No, just that I didn't know about this book, that it was the result of that Congress. And you did the translation of this book, right?
Yeah, I have it here.
You know very well.
Yeah, we have here. Oops.
So you know better than me this book.
Well, not really. I think this is a masterpiece. There will be so much more that we have to learn about it. No, but your presentation was absolutely perfect, because you managed to go through, to highlight all the parts of the book. So let's see, we have this first question. Did Leon Denis have any direct connection to Allan Kardec? Were they contemporary?
Yes, they were contemporary, but actually, Denis, when Kardec was alive, Denis was still very young. So What I know is that they just meet once. I think in Lyon, the Kardec city, and or Denis went to Paris. I don't know. I don't remember exactly the situation, but I think they meet just once because he was young compared to Kardec, but it was contemporary in some way. Most of the new books, the new works were written on the beginning of the 20th century. So for that, we can see that he was very young compared to Kardec, right? Because most of Kardec's works was in the middle of the 19th century. So Denis was end of 19th century and the first 20 years of the 20th century.
If you allow me, Roberto, because I've been writing a chapter for a book that people asked me, and I know this quite well. They met in the city of Tours, where Leon Denis lived, because Kardec went there. Do you remember the book, the Spiritist Journey, Viagem Espírita, where Kardec was traveling around, which is beautiful because we see, the presence of Kardec and Kardec wanting to meet all the, people that were studying Spiritism. And so he went to the city of Tours. At that point, I think Leon Denis was about 21 years old. And something very, very sad, but also amazing happened, because they were supposed to be they rented a room for people to gather and receive Kardec. But at that time, because of, the law of the emperor, the empire, all of that, they needed a special approval from the government to have more than 20 people gathering. So they went and requested the permission to have the gathering. And a couple of hours prior to the meeting, they received the answer, and the answer was no. And so they had to move the gathering to a friend's house. Actually, couldn't be in the house because then it was forbidden. They had to have this special license. And so they went to meet in the garden of the house of a certain person. And it is said that there were 300 people messing up the gardens, stepping on the flowers. And why is it sad? Because Leon Denis was the one that assumed the task of remaining in the old address where the meeting was supposed to take place, but was not, and tell people to go to the other place where they were actually gathering. So Denis messaged Kardec speaking for the general good, to be there, be that noble soul, the charitable soul that would be telling everyone, go to this other address because he's there. But then he was rewarded, because next day he had to go to this house for whatever reason. And then he met Kardec, and he met Amélie. And we have two accounts that they met again, but there is no, at least I don't know about any details. One was in Paris, and the other one was in the city of Bonneval, something like that. But there is no register of when exactly or how it happened, at least that I know of. So if anyone knows, please let us know, because we would like to know more about it. But it's like you said, he was so young, right, Roberto, at that time, but already very, very committed.
Yeah, so young, and also showing how good he was, right?
Yes. Can you imagine, at this point, like they say, they were completely in awe, in admiration by the work of Kardec that he started when he was 18 years old. And now he has the opportunity of being there, of hearing him talk, and all of a sudden he's the one that could not do it out of the goodness of his heart, or and saying, I'll be there, just guiding people not to miss him. Okay, let's go to another question. Yasko is asking, you talked about more than just rituals in many ancient religions. I was raised by Buddhist grandparents and watched the prayers and masses after one's death, but the one at the 49th day after death being the most important one. Also, the event at the Pentecost, 50 days after Jesus' sacrifice, also represented a huge marker for his followers. I wonder if there is some parallel and meaning in terms of the spirit conditions after this period of its death.
Well, in Spiritism, we don't have these days, specific days. Some days after death, this happens or that happens. What we know, and we saw it, some of that today, the condition of the spirit after he dies depends on how attached he was to his earthly life. The less he's attached, the more free he become after life. Sometimes Kardec says that the heart of the person is still beating, but the soul is not there anymore. The soul departed already, right? Because the person was not attached to that body, material life. But on the other hand, there are cases, for example, that let's give you here not a good example, but in the case of suicide, for example, right? The person suicide and he cannot detach it from the body because it wasn't the time to depart, to go. So it remain attached, right? So you can see that in the book Heaven and Hell from Kardec, right? So that the situation of the spirit after he dies depends on how attached or not he was in this material life. So that's why days after that doesn't have any meaning for Spiritism. What Spiritism says, and that we can see in this book of the Spiritists, is that in this passing through this life to the life on the spiritual dimension, the spirit goes through a disturbance period, right? So this disturbance period can be short or long, depending, again, how attached the spirit is to this material world. And you can see that this disturbance at the moment of death is the same that happens when the spirit will reincarnate, as we saw, right, today. So when the spirit will going to reincarnate here, he also goes through this disturbance period. So this is something that is natural, right? But how long it lasts depends on the understanding of the spirit, I should say. I don't know if I
Yeah. That's good. Yasko, if you have any more question, please send it to us, okay? Let's go to the next one, Roberto. How to best promote the works of Leon Denis in our spiritist centers?
Well, it is interesting because we have many books on the Spiritism, the books of Kardec. We have also the books of André Luiz that I mentioned, Emmanuel. But we have also what we call the classicals, which is Leon Denis, Gabriel Delane, Camille Flammarion. They were all kind of contemporary to Kardec, but they were all younger than Kardec, right? So these books, the works of these spiritists also are very important to us. So the way we can promote the works is when we are going to talk about perispirit or reincarnation or law of progress, what we recommend, and we do that here in the São Paulo State Spiritist Federation, we are going to have a class of reincarnation, for example. We based on the spirit, on the works of Kardec, on Leon Denis, on Emmanuel, on André Luiz, even Joana de Angelis, so that we have a broad view, right, of that issue that we are going to present. So the way should be, this would be one way, right, to utilize his works to promote Spiritism, to talk about Spiritism.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no other way, right? We have to bring it more. And I mean, there's so much in the books and publications that he had. Even if we consider the main ones that are the most, the ones that people know more about it, it's a lot of things that we can gather from them. I mean, only this book, the 5 parts of it, it could be 1-year course, right? To study for each one of them. So let's see the other question. Denis starts this book talking about the early times beliefs. Do you believe he did that in order to honor them?
Okay. Let me just complement the former question.
Okay.
Actually here in the FESP, we say FESP is the São Paulo State Spiritist Federation. We have courses on Leon Denis. So we studied after that we studied, for example, the life in destiny, and we study one of these books during 1 year, like you said, Sarah. That's why I remind, right? Yeah. We do that here. Well, then, going this question now. Yes, I think Denis wanted to honor these early beliefs because, as he said, and as Kardec also said, right, in the Spiritist book, he said that, well, the old religion, the old principles, you can have some misunderstanding there because of the time, right? It's in the beginning of understanding. But there is great principles there, so that's what Denis show here, right? So our colleague here talked about the Buddhism. For example, Buddhism had already, you know, the notion for reincarnation, used to mention the life will, roda da vida, we say in Portuguese. Life. What is life will? Is this coming? Living in returning, right? It's a reincarnation. So what the Buddhist teaching said is that we must free ourselves from this life wheel. How can we do that? We can progress, right? We must evolve. And then we have all these four truths of the Buddhism, right? The first truth that everything is suffering in this world. The second is we must realize that, and third is that third truth is that we must free from this suffering, from this sorrow in this world. And for the fourth truth is how to do that. And then you have the oxbow ways. There are 8 ways to think correctly, to do things correctly, to talk correctly, to meditate correctly. All this. So you're doing that, you get free from the life wheel, and then you reach nirvana. Nirvana to Buddhist is that level what we in Spiritism says is the level of the advanced spirit, right? So basically the same in another words, right? So that's why we must of course honor all these ancient religions, right? The same happened with India. I could mention here Krishna, but I think we don't have time. So we must honor this old religion, because the great principles were already there. God does not give truth only to Western people or Eastern people or to Earth people. God spreads His truth through all over the universe, right? So, and through all times. So that's what why we must honor this wisdom from the past.
Okay, thank you. I think we have more questions. Can we say that a spirit is pure conscience? If yes, is that so only for pure superior ones or for everyone?
Well, with spirit, which says, that is an interesting question, because with the Spirit book, or the book of the Spirit, says that what is the Spirit? The Spirit is the individualization of the intelligence principle. So that is a kind of a pure conscience, yes, because there is nothing material in that, right? But that would take another lecture about that, Jussara. But
yeah,
what we can think here, actually, spirit as a pure conscience does not exist, because every spirit has its perispirit, its spiritual body, right? So, because if there was a spirit as a pure conscience, such a spirit would be immaterial. Immaterial only God is, right? Because that's the one thing that you must, when we meditate about the book, the Spirit book, when Kardec talks about God, there he said, right, God is material. If God is material, the attributes that we of God applies only to Him, let's say, right? Not to us. What is the attributes of the Creator does not apply to the creature, so to the creation. So, spirit by itself, by one in concrete things, does not exist. And every spirit is always attached to a spiritual body, whether it's a spirit still in progress like us, or it is a pure spirit. That's why Kardec, I say Kardec, but actually it's the Spirit answering to Kardec in the book of the Spirits. The Spirit says that when this spiritual body is so light, so fluid, then you have the level, the state of the pure spirit, but it's still attached to a spiritual body. So what I try to say here is that the spirit as a pure conscience conceptually is right, but concretely does not exist, right? Because everything that is from the creation has some material attached. A material, I mean, no material in this dense material, right? Flesh and body, for example. Material in the sense of fluid, right? So I think it was something complicated to understand here, but that's why we could talk on another occasion, right? So, but this is the answer.
But that is so wonderful, Robert, because we would like to have you on another occasion as well. So maybe we can go further than that to talk about, the spirit is always so deep, so profound. There's so much for us to explain. Like you said, it's basically impossible just to give a quick answer about it. Well, we had so many people following us today, so many of your friends from FESP as well. And they all send their regards, and they are very happy also to see that you're helping spreading spiritism in the United States. And I really hope that we will have many other opportunities to receive you with your time and allow you to be with us as well. it has been a great experience to have you here. I'm happy that I will be with you from next week at FESP and Sunday. Vera Milano has invited me to give a talk as well. Well, that talk will be in Portuguese for those who will be following us. And now it's the time that we are going to be going to the end of this presentation. But before that, I would like to know if you have any final considerations that you would like to give to us at this moment.
Yeah, I just would like to thank you for the invitation, this opportunity to talk about the Spiritism. That is something that changed completely our life and give us all the clarifications about life. And then we wait you on next Saturday, next Sunday, right?
Sunday, yeah. The 14th.
Not tomorrow, the 14th.
Yes,
yeah.
The 14th, yeah.
For your presentation, we will be glad to have you with us here at FESP. Okay.
Thank you, Roberto. It will be wonderful. FESP has been the place that I started with Spiritism as well. So it's actually was the first Spiritist place that I went when I was 10 years old. My mother took me there, and up to this day, I remember the talk that I watched that have impacted me for life, and here I am.
Yeah,
right?
I just want for making a great job there in this. You and your husband, João, right?
We have a great collaborators here. We have a very lot of committed people, but my husband and I, both of us are here as well, trying to do, what we were invited to do, right? To spread this beautiful knowledge to everyone. So next week we have a talk at the same time by Dr. Vicente Pessoa. He's going to be talking about the cures of Jesus, a medical spiritist hypothesis. So we wait for all of you as well to be with us next week. And with that, we want to thank everyone that has been connected with us, and above all, to thank the good spirits that have been protecting us, that especially today have been, protecting Roberto to be here with us, and for the beautiful message that he gave to us. May we all have a wonderful Saturday, Sunday, and Jesus in our home, Jesus in our hearts. Have a great week, everyone.
Right.